This is for barristers and lawyers who walk into mediations well prepared on the law and they still watch it stall and maybe even ultimately fail. You know the law, you've done the work, the risks are really clear, and somewhere during the day, the same sentences show up. We're legally right. The other side, they're the problem. This won't settle, or it didn't settle. And those sentences explain a lot. They just don't change the outcome. And that's the problem. So the real question is, why does this keep happening? Well, here's what I can promise you. If you prepare beyond the law for how you approach mediations, how you prepare mediations, how you think, how you will show up, how you will communicate when you're under pressure, you're going to stop reacting in the room. You're going to start staying in control of what's actually yours to control, and that will change everything. Because when mediations fail, it's really because the law is unclear. What's really happening at mediations that get stuck or fail, it's because of what's happening under the surface. The unhelpful thinking, the emotions, the poor behaviours, the fears, the worries, and they start driving the process. And when preparation is confined to the law, you're the one who slowly loses control of the things that really matter. How you show up, what you will tolerate, how you will communicate, how fear or worry or concern shapes your decisions, how it also shapes your communication. And that's true whether you're a senior or junior in law. And it doesn't depend on who's at the table or on the other side. What changes outcomes isn't pushing the law harder, it's being prepared for what actually happens in the room before the pressure hits. So let me give you a concrete example. One matter involved a client with an AVO in place. His former wife, she was high conflict, refused to be in the same room as him at mediation. From a legal perspective, the issues are relatively simple, but the dynamic in the room wasn't. Throughout the day, the husband made concessions, trying to bring the matter to an end. Then late in the day, the mediation stalled over a $300 piece of furniture. Not a legal issue. This was based on emotion. It was a relational issue. It was symbolic. Once the focus shifted from the legal issues to the people involved, the matter settled. At the end of the day, the couple walked to their cars together in a better place than when they had arrived, in a stronger position so that they could co-parent their children together. The partner in the law firm later said, Louise helped bring about a settlement at mediation in difficult circumstances. This was accomplished mainly through her interactions with a challenging party. The outcome didn't come because there was better law. It came from managing what was actually driving the room. Here's another version of the same problem. In this matter, a junior lawyer was acting for a client who really wanted to settle, but he also wanted to be right. The other party obviously was challenging. There's usually one that's more challenging than the other. And the client that this junior was representing really felt torn because he didn't want to give too much away. He felt like he'd been unfairly treated. He wanted the matter finished, but he didn't want to be taken advantage of. Progress had been made, then it would stop like most mediations. But each time it stopped, he got caught in his own thinking and his emotions as to what he saw was the injustice to the situation. So during the day, I worked with him and the other client directly, not to pressure them to settle or to provide my legal views, but to reality test their expectations, what they wanted to happen on the day, to challenge their thinking, to help them stay clear-headed under pressure. Once that happened, the matter settled. The junior solicitor later said, I cannot think of one way Louise could have improved her interactions with my client. There wasn't anything I didn't like about her mediation methods. All of her dealings with me and my client were appropriate and well handled. Our client was praised and appropriately challenged. I would definitely recommend Louise to others to mediate their matters. Again, not legal issues, not better law, helping parties move forward when they're under pressure. And the same pattern shows up here. In this matter, one party was legally represented, the other party wasn't. The unrepresented party was a high conflict and creating ongoing issues in the process. The principal had given clear advice to her client, but the behaviour of the other party was stopping the mediation from moving forward towards resolution. I worked privately with the unrepresented party without giving legal advice to manage behaviour, clarify expectations, refocus him on the future and towards resolution. Once that happened, the matter settled. The principal later said, "Louise treated me and my client as important and with skill. She was well prepared, accessible and easy to approach. She built rapport and her skills were instrumental in resolving the matter." Different matter, same underlying issue. Seeing these patterns repeat is why this became my work in mediation. Great lawyers, strong cases, clear advice, and still mediations dragging to a halt or ending with, "We were legally right and it didn't settle." It was clear what was happening. Legal preparation, that was rarely the issue. Things broke down around the law when pressure rose, when people became emotionally charged and their behaviour reflected that, when assumptions were made, when stories that people were making up that took over the process and their way of approaching the process and the other people, when behaviour went unchecked or when focus on resolution was lost. That's where outcomes are getting lost. Most lawyers are trained with a particular mediation map. Prepare the law, prepare your position paper. If your arguments are strong enough and the risks are explained clearly, people will move toward resolution. And that map makes sense on paper. It doesn't when people are under pressure, when they're fearful, when they're emotionally charged, when they're uncertain. So much of the advice that lawyers are taught about mediation, it does sound sensible. Stay focused on the law, let the mediator handle behaviour, leave emotion at the door, assume status will give you the edge, assume experience will give you the upper hand. That approach only works when nothing difficult outside of the law arises. But once something or an issue arises that sits beside the law on the day, and that's what's driving the room, everything shifts. The law stops doing the work it's supposed to do. Behaviour goes unchecked. Emotion changes how people communicate, think, what risks they'll take. Status starts shaping outcomes. People dig in and they dig in harder, even if there's no logic to it. The mediation stalls or fails, and then everybody is left to explain why. So when you strip it all back, this is a real issue. Mediations don't fail because the lawyers and barristers lack skill. They fail because pressure, fear, thinking, emotions, behaviour arise that become obstacles that stop resolution. No one prepares for that. And once that happens, legal arguments stop moving the people in the room toward resolution. Sometimes the obstacle does show up as aggressive, forceful, high conflict behaviour or someone losing their cool. Sometimes it doesn't. It shows up as overconfidence. My case will do better in court. I'm right, you're wrong, communication. As seniority used as a tactic. It shows up when disputes are run as if a lawyer is running it like it's their own case, their own personal case. Or when money is not being offered from the other side as if it's coming out of the other side's own pockets. Or it shows up with thinking, they're not really genuine. we're not going to give them anything. It shows up when somebody has a meltdown or after somebody expresses an opinion that they disagree with. Or when people use threats or demands to try to get the upper hand. Assumptions get made, judgments get locked in, people get stuck, fear runs deeper, defences rise, and then people are pushing their own agendas and can get consumed by winning. Once that happens, nothing moves. It gets stuck. Another obstacle sits inside every single barrister and lawyer. And it's rarely the other side that is your biggest enemy at the table. It's a part of you that you know needs to change, but you hesitate to make those changes. And often it's based in fear or uncertainty or doubt, and it might sound something like this. If I push this, this could backfire on me. If this goes badly, I'll be the one that's going to be remembered as the one who created the bad outcome. What will they think of me if? So things don't get said, difficult conversations don't happen, poor behaviour is tolerated long enough to poison the room. And often, again, the issue isn't the law. It's the fear, the uncertainty, the self-doubt that takes over. Fear of getting it wrong, fear of damaging your reputation, fear of what others will think. Then there are the assumptions and stories running under the surface of what's happening in the room. Stories about the other side. Thinking about the stories that we make up as to what is really possible that we can achieve here on the day. Or what they said or what they did or the offers they made, and we're putting interpretations on and meaning on everything that's the other side are doing. These stories and assumptions without evidence narrow thinking. They pull focus away from listening and from being curious, and they pull our attention away from really focusing on the problems and surfacing the real problems that need solving. And as a result, as the day goes on, pressure builds. We know clients want results. Expectations rise, lawyers feel it, the mediator feels it, and there's difficult topics stay untouched. And the mediation keeps circling the edges because assumptions and stories that are made up without evidence, and they're running the mediation, instead of being curious and dealing with what is really the problem and the issues that are blocking resolution. So this is where preparation beyond the law comes in. Preparation means you've got systems, you can keep focus, you can be in control before and know how to be in control before the day even begins. Performance is about staying flexible, autonomous, clear-headed when the pressure shows up. And leadership, leading the mediation, is where you earn trust, respect, and you can influence the room when it counts. That's what the difference is. And it also defines the mediator's role. In my view, it isn't to push legal opinion or predict outcomes when evidence is incomplete or untested, because this creates false certainty. It distorts decision-making. The role is to manage people and the process, to work with thinking and behaviour as it shows up, so parties are best placed to make decisions they can stand behind and are proud of. So when lawyers and barristers prepare this way, the shift is absolutely obvious. People stop posturing, communication changes, pressure drops, time gets used effectively, not because the law changes, because the people in the room do. Legal preparation alone doesn't decide mediation outcomes. If you want a mediation prepared and led for what happens in the room, contact me for your next mediation.